Disclaimer, the comments made in this video are intended for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to offend anyone. Welcome back, folks. Today we are watching comedy do what lectures never could. Dave Chappelle steps on stage, sets a few conversational traps, and lets modern outrage culture sprint straight into them with confidence. Kicking things off, Dave Chappelle sets one trap and woke logic walks straight into it, smiling.
This idea that a person can be born in the wrong body, but they have to admit that's a hilarious predicament. It's really funny. If it happened to me, you'd laugh, wouldn't you? That wouldn't be funny if it happened to me? I think it would be. What if it did? What if I was Chinese, but born in this body? That's not funny. And for the rest of my life, I had to go around making that face. Hey, everybody, I'm Chinese! And everyone get mad. Stop making that face. That's offensive. What? This is how I feel inside.
The crowd laughs instantly while the outraged crowd starts clutching rule books. One harmless question, one pause, and suddenly offense replaces logic. No shouting, no sermon, just comedy exposing how fragile woke thinking really is when jokes hit too close to home. Next, Dave Chappelle tells a simple story and lets woke logic do the rest.
I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, yes, I do. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. And Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. And when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey! And everyone said, no! Call him Andy. I was very disappointed. Because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
He builds it slowly, lands one comparison, and suddenly the outraged crowd freezes. The audience laughs because they see the point instantly. When comedy mirrors real life this clearly, woke logic panics and taps out fast. Now check this out. Dave Chappelle asks one question that woke logic never prepared for.
Holy Jamie, pull that video up.
Say LeBron James changed his gender. Can he stay in the NBA? Or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game? What does it actually mean to be equal? You know what I mean? Like, women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? You would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us. Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut up.
Crowd laughs because math, biology, and common sense still exist. Meanwhile, the outraged crowd starts buffering. He walks it through calmly, then ends it with brutal simplicity. No rant, no apology tour. Just a reminder that reality does not bend for feelings. After that, Bill calls out the hardcore left for pretending cancel culture never existed, right after they finish canceling everyone.
You know what's funny right now is watching the hardcore left walking away from their hardcoreness, you know, after they took out so many innocent people. Now they're doing their new thing is like, nobody got canceled. What are you talking about? Oh God, another old person saying we can't even say this. It's like, no, you did do that. You did do that, you cunts, right? That is what happened. That is what happened, right? It all happened. We all rollerbladed. We all told people they had to get vaccinated, and liberal left people flipped out if you didn't say they, and they tried to you. That's what they did. That is what they did. Now they're like, what are you talking?
It's wild how people can destroy someone's reputation and then act like nothing happened. The hardcore left denies their own impact, flipping out if anyone points it out. Burr exposes the inconsistency. Actions speak louder than words, even when people pretend otherwise. Then Bill walks straight into the abortion debate with a take so blunt it makes everyone uncomfortable.
Pro-choice always made sense to me because I don't like people telling me what to do. And I always just like, it's your body. Who the fuck am I to tell you what to do with your body? So that always made sense, all right? However, I still think you're killing a baby. See? That's where it gets weird. It's not a baby yet. That's what they say, which may or may not be true. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I'll tell you, my gut tells me that doesn't make sense. It's not a baby yet. That would be like if I was making a cake and I poured some batter in a pan and I put it in the oven, and then 5 minutes later you came by and you grabbed the pan, you threw it across the floor, and I went, what the f*** ruined my birthday cake? And then you were like, well, that wasn't a cake yet. It's like, well, it would have been. You didn't do what you just did. There would have been a cake in 50 minutes. Something happened to that cake, you cake murdering son of a... Right?
The cake example is perfect. That's exactly how many right-wing people approach this issue. They won't stop you, but they won't pretend it's fine either. It's an uncomfortable truth wrapped in a simple analogy. Next, Bill laughs at the sudden appearance of racist white guys, wondering where this enthusiasm was during earlier elections.
I love the racist white guy thing. A bunch of racist white guys. They came out of the forest and they were just going, Trump, Trump, Trump. It's like, where were all these racist white guys the last two elections when they could have voted against the black guy? They were fine. Oh, I don't mind the black guy. But this white lady, we gotta stop her. It's gonna take her four-wheelers, Macoozy.
Burr highlights the irony of outrage being selective. These same voters suddenly show up in a frenzy, but were mysteriously absent when it mattered in previous elections. It's a reminder that people often get politically energized only when it fits their current narrative. Here we have a classic flip. Dave Chappelle points out how woke kindness works right up until it costs something.
You know what I learned about liberal white people? Liberal white people let black people do whatever they want until you buy most of their talent. Oh, they frowned on that. And whites got real suspicious. But you know what? I don't blame them. Because, no, for real, because look, if I was white and the people in this town were black, you know what they'd say? They would say I was gentrifying the town. But there's no word for what I'm doing to these people.
The crowd laughs because the double standard is obvious. Support is loud, smiles are wide, then ownership enters the chat, and suddenly woke people gets nervous. No rant, no anger, just irony exposing how selective woke approval really is. Now for this one, Dave Chappelle reminds everyone that conversation is not a summons.
I've seen an uptick in comedians recently, in the past year, be a lot more bold with not being afraid of woke culture. I think actually Chappelle was one who really pushed the needle here.
Yeah.
Where he did not back down from the transgenderism issues. They tried to cancel him multiple times, you know, and Chappelle's like, come at me, you know.
Yeah.
And
To the transgender community, I am more than willing to give you an audience, but you will not summon me. I am not bending to anybody's demands. And you can judge for yourself, but you cannot have this conversation and exclude my voice from it. That is only fair. You have to answer the question, am I canceled or not? Then let's go. Thank you very much and good night.
Woke culture tries the cancel chant, and he answers with calm confidence. The crowd roars because backbone still matters. No begging, no retreat, just a simple question turned back on the mob. Turns out cancel power fades fast when someone refuses to kneel. This time, Dave Chappelle points out what woke culture always dodges, the difference between feelings and results.
You guys are confusing your emotions. You think I hate gay people. And what you're really seeing is that I am jealous of gay people. Oh, I'm jealous. I'm not the only black person that feels this way. We blacks, we look at the gay community and we go, God, how well that movement is going. Look how well you are doing. And we've been trapped in this predicament for hundreds of years. How the are you making that kind of progress? I can't help but feel like if slaves had baby oil and booty shorts, we might have been free 100 years sooner, you know what I mean?
He says the quiet part out loud, that outrage is not hate, and jealousy is about progress, not identity. While woke logic cries oppression on loop, he asked how one movement surged ahead, while another stayed frozen for centuries. That final comparison lands hard. Woke culture hates jokes that keep score. This one's a favorite. Bill Maher watches liberal theory collapse the moment motherhood and coyotes enter the chat.
It's been fascinating because I've been on this sort of journey through motherhood where, you know, I've always been a very liberal person, maybe even a libtard. But once you have a kid, you start like having thoughts that have been characterized as conservative. As soon as I had a kid, I was like, I need a gun now. Not for myself, because I've got coyotes in my yard. I've got coyotes everywhere. And before I had a kid, I was like, they coexist with us. Coyotes were here first. Like, I'm in the coyotes' home. Now I'm like, let's make hats out of them. Let's make hats. Let's make coyote boots, coyote earrings out of their eyeballs. Like, it's just...
Before kids, coexistence. After kids, perimeter security. When responsibility shows up, ideology quiets down. It's amazing how quickly trust the system becomes, I need to protect my family. And somehow that's labeled conservative. Here, Maher reacts to Gen Z rediscovering communism and reminds us that history exists for people who bother to read it.
20% of Gen Z agree with the statement, society would be better off if all property was owned by the public and managed by the government. And another 29% say they don't know if that's a good idea. Here's who does know. Anyone who wasn't born yesterday. So when you say, you're old, you don't get it, get what? Abolish the police and the border patrol and capitalism and cancel Lincoln? No, I get it. The problem isn't that I don't get what you're saying or that I'm old. The problem is that your ideas are stupid.
This clip is a reminder that novelty doesn't equal insight. Maher laughs at the fantasy of abolishing capitalism, police, and borders because, honestly, anyone who's been alive longer than a meme sees the chaos coming. Youthful idealism is cute until it starts rewriting the manual of reality. Next, Bill Maher commits the ultimate sin in modern media, asking why we weren't told the whole story.
I saw in the paper today, kind of a big story, I think. I wonder how much it's going to get covered in the liberal media, because it's about how natural immunity, they did a giant study, 65 countries, or maybe something like 65 countries, many, many different studies. They looked at them all. Natural immunity, as good or better than the vaccine. Something I've been saying since the beginning, and I get called an anti-vaxxer. That's not an anti-vaxxer. This is the kind of thing, my problem with the media from both sides is not that you guys lie. It's that you tell me your side of the story that you want me to know. You don't tell me the whole story. I'd be curious as to how much play this story gets, because I remember reading that they did a study of Republicans versus Democrats. The question was, what percentage, this is like a year and a half ago, what percentage of people who get COVID require hospitalization? The answer is less than 1%. Almost half of Democrats thought it was over 50%. They listened to your network. Where do they get that kind of information?
That was to you. That was clear.
Okay, that's bad information they have in their head, and it's from one...
Mahar's observation is painfully simple. News isn't always lying, it's cherry-picking. When half the country believes over 50% of COVID patients were hospitalized, maybe it's less a knowledge gap and more a storytelling problem. Sometimes facts don't fit the narrative, and suddenly common sense becomes subversive. At this point, Bill talks about discovering that political extremes don't disappear. They just live closer to the ocean.
I thought I was liberal until I moved out here. And then there's just like this psycho extra level of liberal, where it's just like they are as insane as some of the craziest people on like a right-wing thing. Like they're just totally extremists, and I find there's a lot of bullying out here, just as much labeling, but they're patting themselves on the back because they feel like the way they think everything should be is so right because they live near an ocean. It depends on the situation. I'm a big believer in helping out people that need help, but I'm also a big believer at some point you gotta like quit your whining and you gotta because nobody gives a fuck about you or your dream.
Right.
Okay? That it's up to you to care about it. So you have at the end of the day you gotta make shit happen. They're only gonna push you behind the bicycle for so long to make sure you don't tip over. So and it's just the art of it is when to apply it, which I'm not saying I know how to do, but like there's sometimes I'm really empathetic, and then there's other times it's like,
Bill Burr nails the absurdity of extremism no matter the coast. His ability to point out bullying, labeling, and ocean-adjacent moral superiority is sharp and hilarious. He makes you laugh while realizing some people really do take ideology way too seriously. And speaking of absurdity, Bill roasts cancel culture for reaching peak stupidity the moment it tried to cancel dead people.
It was this kind of hilarious moment like last year where they started to try and cancel like dead people. Remember that?
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, like John Wayne was trending. I'm like, what, do they got some found footage? You got a new movie coming out that maybe they shelved? And all of a sudden, it was all these stupid, woke white people, right? Oh my God, did you see what John Wayne said in Playboy in 1971? This is a bunch of people all up in arms about a dead white guy. I can no longer tolerate this. I can no longer tolerate dead for 45 years John Wayne saying things in a magazine that doesn't exist anymore. I am here for black people.
Bill Burr perfectly highlights how absurd cancel culture has become. Trending John Wayne for a 1971 play is peak ridiculousness. It's one thing to debate accountability, but targeting the dead, that's comedy gold, and Burr delivers it flawlessly. He makes you laugh while thinking, seriously, can you cancel someone who's not even here? Finally, here's a masterclass in double standards.
I'll be real with you, and I know nobody gives a I think anyway. I'm not for abortion. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. It all depends on who I get pregnant. I don't care, I'll tell you right now, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or anything. If you have, you need to shut the this one. Seriously, this is theirs. The right to choose is their unequivocal right. Not only do I believe they have the right to choose, I believe that they shouldn't have to consult anybody, except for a physician, about how they exercise that right. Gentlemen, that is fair.
He opens honestly, and the room laughs when they remember jokes are still allowed. He even plays by the woke rules for a moment, just long enough to show how crooked the scoreboard really is.
And ladies, to be fair to us, I also believe if you decide to have the baby, a man should not have to pay. That's fair. If you can kill this, you can at least abandon them. It's my money, my choice. And if I'm wrong, then perhaps we're wrong. Just figure it out for yourself.
Then the fairness test hits. Suddenly equality needs fine print. Same logic, same rules, applied both ways. And woke arguments collapse the second consistency walks into the room. And that is the pattern every single time. When comedy stays calm and honest, outrage culture has nothing to grab onto but feelings and rule books. Dave Chappelle never raises his voice, never begs for approval, and never backs down. He lets the crowd laugh, lets logic breathe, and suddenly, the whole woke performance collapses under its own contradictions. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy watching confidence beat cancel chants. Here, Marr explains how calling everything racist doesn't fix problems. It just hands elections to people you'll hate even more.
The far left, which always like to use, well, Europe does it. Yeah, no, that doesn't work on this one anymore. Or on immigration. Sweden opened its borders to over 1.5 million immigrants since 2010, and now 20% of its citizens are foreign-born, and its education system is tanking, and it has Europe's highest rate of gangland killing. And one result is that the far-right parties are in the government now there for the first time, to which liberals say blaming immigrants for the rising crime rate is racist. Yeah, but is it true? Of course it's true. It's not a coincidence the quality of life went down after the Somali gangs started a drug turf war using hand grenades. Calling it racist doesn't solve the problem. It hands future elections to someone who will solve the problem and who, I promise, you're not going to like.
For years, Europe does it was the left's favorite mic drop until Europe actually did it. Maher's point is brutal but simple. Ignoring real consequences doesn't make you compassionate, it makes you ineffective. When every problem is dismissed as racism, voters eventually choose someone who promises solution. things. In this clip, Bill Maher points out how modern parenting went from "that's ridiculous" to "you're right, sweetie, reality is optional."
Democrats seem to be afraid of everything. They were petrified of COVID, masking 2-year-olds who never would have died from it and keeping schools closed for far too long. They're definitely afraid of their kids, who from time immemorial have always come up with bad ideas. Their kids, thinking up stupid what they do. But parents used to tell them, that's ridiculous. The world doesn't work that way. Not today's parents. They say, you're right, honey. Gender is just a social construct. Please, sometimes your mother and I forget which one of us has the...
Maher's joke lands because it hits a nerve. Fear replaces judgment. From overreacting to COVID to outsourcing parenting to children themselves, adults stop being adults. Kids have always had wild ideas. That's normal. What's new is parents treating every phase as wisdom and every boundary as oppression. Up next, Mayor highlights how Sanctuary City sounded great, right up until the sanctuary actually needed to do some sanctuating.
Let me get back to the border issue politically, because I feel like this is a disaster for the Democrats. They look like Sanctuary City hypocrites. They were the ones who said, look, we're the compassionate people. Everybody should get a shot here. And then when they started sending, I mean, the quotes from Eric Adams, this is the mayor of liberal New York. This issue will destroy our city. The governor, if you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. Keep walking. Is from the governor of New York. They put out a flyer, says New York is one of the most expensive cities in the world. You are better off going to a more affordable city. And also, the club scene is dead. But I mean, there is a little, I understand a little, I told you so from the people on the border.
This is compassion meeting logistics and losing spectacularly. Mayer highlights the left's favorite motto, everyone's welcome, which sounds noble until reality shows up. Policies have consequences, and when the consequences clash with ideology, even the most confident slogans start to wobble. Now, here's a good one right at the start.
No one can be woke enough. You're not going to nag people into behaving.
Right.
In a way that, in fact, if you continue with this tone, even if you're right, you'll be very hard to hear.
He's calm but sharp, explaining to Joe Rogan that nagging people into behaving woke doesn't make them listen. The tone is measured, almost teasing as he points out that even if you're right, you'll just sound ridiculous.
So, Greg, political correctness killed comedy a long time ago, but wokeness is putting the final nail in the coffin.
Well, it's interesting. What Chappelle's talking about, and this was actually before the SNL thing, was that comedians can talk a good game on wokeness until they get up on stage because it's not funny. And so it's like you lose the kind of humanity. A lot of the things that people talk about, what comedians talk about, is shocking and gross and funny about and love and drugs and all this. All that stuff goes out the window. Everything goes out the window. When you want to talk about your uncle or you want to talk about your friends and stuff, all that stuff goes away if you follow the parameters of the woke.
Chappelle's comments on Musk and SNL highlight the absurdity of cancel culture. Woke ideologues, no matter the stage, can't force comedy into their rigid rules. Next up, we've got a classic reality check. Dave Chappelle walks through a media meltdown and lets silence do the talking.
Jussie Smollett, he's a very famous French actor. One night, he was in Chicago late at night and was the victim. It was a crazy story. Apparently, when he was walking down the street late at night, 2 white men came out of the shadows with MAGA hats on and beat him up. The shit was like international news, and everybody was furious, especially in Hollywood. It's all over everybody's Twitter feed and Instagram page. Justice for Jussie and all that. For some reason, African Americans, we were like oddly quiet. We were so quiet about it that the gay community started accusing African American community of being homophobic for not supporting him. What they didn't understand is that we were supporting him with our silence, because we understood that this nigga was clearly lying.
While woke Twitter screams on cue, he points out who stayed quiet and why. Turns out instinct beats hashtags. The crowd laughs because they saw it coming, and outrage culture once again confuses noise with truth. In this clip, Maher explains how having no plan, no message, and no identity somehow became a political strategy.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't.
I'd like...
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I will not accept that.
I thought you might ask me about it. That's where I had to read it. But the point is, it's like, as you probably know, it's like a diary of what happened. But I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large. And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
This clip exposes a curious truth. Political energy doesn't always equal problem solving. Maher notes that while Democrats shine on paper issues like healthcare and women's rights, voters care more about safety, borders, and economy. Opposition alone isn't a strategy, and apparently nobody told the party that. Here's Bill Maher calling out the left for replacing science with vibes.
I hate to admit this country is not as mature as it thinks it is. We elected Obama, and clearly the country freaked out. And we're still living in that freak out. We are not as progressed and evolved and intelligent as we think we are because we keep freaking out about this stuff.
Well,
you know?
The left freak out too. The left freaked out about a lot of too.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people. Like it's not scientific.
But the left certainly stayed scientific.
No, they didn't.
Why not?
Because they think gender that they went way too far with. That's not scientific.
But how did I'm not trying to. How did they go too far with like gender stuff? And I'm not
instead of if I was teaching children, what I would teach them is there is a default setting for the human being, which is heterosexuality, but that doesn't mean every person is that, and we should completely respect everyone who isn't that. But we understand that that's called a minority, and what makes us a great country is that we respect minorities. We don't think they're lesser just because they're lesser in numbers. That's not what we started to teach, which was that every baby is, I don't know, let's not even put it on the birth certificate. That's what they wanted.
Were we teaching that?
Yes, we
When were we teaching that?
Teaching it was a law here in California. See,
to teach what?
Don't put on the birth certificate. We'll see. Now we've passed that period now.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. I mean,
I know because it doesn't get in the blue sky bubble.
Wait a minute, I'm not just on blue sky.
I really think that's a lot of it, is that some of this stuff doesn't get in to everybody's media.
Maher's frustration here is simple. You can respect minorities without pretending reality has no default settings. The left didn't just push tolerance. They overcorrected into confusion. When basic biology becomes controversial and parents are told to wait and see, don't act shocked when people feel gaslit instead of educated. This time, the outraged crowd realizes comedy does not ask for permission.
But I can't say the word faggot. And she said, because, David, you are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a either.
Chappelle drops a line so blunt the room freezes, then laughs anyway, because timing beats hashtags every time. The alphabet lecture turns into a traffic jam joke, and suddenly the activists are stuck arguing seating charts instead of ideas. Now the metaphor hits hard, and the tension shows who actually runs the conversation. Here comes the closer, calm, firm, no apology tour, just conditions. No yelling, no panic, just confidence. Woke outrage swings, comedy ducks, and reality lands the punch. Coming up, this is where the comedy turns into a pressure test.
G's see him. That guy might be one of us. Hey, are you okay? Need some help? And he come over there with them booty shorts leaning on the window. Hey, what's going on, fellas? Lady? Whatever pronoun makes you feel comfortable in the back. Yeah, I don't really know where I'm going. I don't know if I'm gay or I'm straight or whatever. All I know for sure is that I really want to get in this car. And they make him get in and sit in between the B's and the T's. I feel bad for T's, but they're so confusing. And it's not all my fault. I feel like they need to take some responsibility for my jokes.
The whole pronoun circus gets flipped into a punchline, and suddenly the room remembers what jokes are supposed to do. Things get sharper, he jokes about locking phones, reads complaint, says he felt bad for someone feeling bad, not the joke, then tees up the line anyway. Woke outrage treats nerves like evidence, and by the end, the crowd is laughing hard. Oh, he really said that way. That is what happens when satire ignores the script and hits straight. Up next is my favorite, as Dave Chappelle starts by playing nice, just long enough to let woke guards relax.
I would support anybody's right to be whoever they feel like they are inside. I'm your ally in that. However, my question is, to what degree do I have to participate in your self-image? Is it fair that I have to change my whole pronoun game up for this?
Then he asks one fair question, and the whole pronoun rule book falls apart. The crowd laughs because it is obvious. Woke culture hates this part, when agreement still comes with limits. Here comes a heavy one, and Dave Chappelle refuses to let woke outrage rewrite real friendship.
And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking, laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about what she be into. We all laughing real hard, and as she's telling us and everyone's laughing, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me, and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me. And I pushed her all violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a because Twitter's not a real place.
He talks about a friend who owned the room with talent, not labels, while woke culture quietly scans for something to be offended by. One joke lands, Twitter melts down on schedule, and he reminds everyone that online mobs are loud, not real, and definitely not in charge. A thoughtful defense gets punished by the same crowd that never stops preaching kindness. Even the media moment turns into comedy because sincerity embarrasses people who survive on outrage and posturing. The closer hits hardest. He draws a clear line between real loyalty and performative activism. Empathy goes both ways, and woke culture absolutely hates being asked to give back what it constantly demands. Moving on, Bill breaks down how white liberals accidentally handed the word woke to the right.
You know what's funny is white liberals are the ones that gave the definition of woke to whites on the right. So no white people really understand, it seems, what that word really meant when they took it from black people. So people on the right just think it means an insufferable, self-involved liberal douche. And they're not wrong if they're talking about a white person. Right. Running around crying about their pronouns is like the sun is like lighting the planet on fire. See, look how scared you are about pronouns. It's unbelievable.
They like when you talk
Meanwhile,
about
the rest of the world doesn't want to take our food because they see what we look like. They don't want our beautiful chicken. They don't want our beautiful beef. Yeah, why is that? Why would you think?
It is just always the best.
Go to Europe and if you can, and eat a tomato and see what it really is supposed to taste like. This is a tomato?
That's a good advice.
Oh my God.
World. Hey, congrats again on the show.
I thought it was supposed to taste like Xerox.
Bill highlights the perfect hypocrisy. The word woke was hijacked by white liberals, then thrown into right-wing purgatory. And yes, the right is correct to roll their eyes. Between the climate panic and pronoun obsession, nobody's asking for chicken or beef anymore, but hey, at least #survive. Next up, Bill delivers a masterclass on how white women didn't just join wokeness, they annexed it.
I gotta tell you, the way white women somehow hijack the woke movement, generals around the world should be analyzing this. The woke movement was supposed to be about people of color, and it was about that for about 8 seconds. And then somehow, white women swung their Gucci-booted feet over the fence of oppression and stuck themselves at the front of the line. My name is Burr, with my SUV and my heated seats. You have no idea what it's like to be me. Trash and white guys. The nerve. Where's the camera? The nerve of you white women. You guys stood by us toxic white males through centuries of our crimes against humanity. And occasionally, when you wanted to sneak off and hook up with a black dude, if you got caught, you said it wasn't consensual. Yeah, that's what you did. So why don't you shut up, sit down next to me, and take your talking to?
Leave it to Bill to notice the ultimate power move. Hijacking social justice while wearing designer shoes. White women took woke, flipped it, and strutted across history's oppression with style. Apparently, centuries of standing on the sidelines haven't slowed them down. They just learned to post about it. Then Bill tackles the wage gap debate by asking the one question nobody wants to answer. Who stays behind when everything is on fire?
It's like really into like women's issues. So we used to always have these dumb arguments. So one time she came up to me, she goes, okay, explain this to me, Bill. Why does a guy make more an hour to do the exact same job, huh? I go, I'll tell you why. Because in the unlikely event that we're both on a Titanic and it starts to sink, for some f***ed up reason, you get to leave with the kids and I have to stay. No, think about it. If there's a house fire, it's always women and children first. I gotta stand there with like the back of my shirt on fire going, let's go, people, let's go, let's go. You hear a bump in the night, I gotta go check it out like, yes, he does have a knife. Anytime there's a hostage situation, who do they negotiate for first? Well, at least let the women and children go. Well, what about me? Bullets hurt me too. Why the f do I gotta stay in the vault? Where are all the feminists in those situations? You know what I mean? You can't find them. There are no feminists in a house fire. That's a guarantee. You could take the most hardcore feminist, some chick right in your face, like he's shoving his son a little short, little haircut, the whole 9 yards, right? Second those flames break out, she's gonna twist those little hairs into pigtails.
Bill Burr uses bold hypotheticals to highlight a simple truth. Risk often comes with responsibility and compensation. Men may get higher pay not because of sexism alone, but because historically they were expected to literally take the heat. It's messy logic, but that's how reality works.
I couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. And there's a lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion? Not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America? Not doing it. Homelessness is a lifestyle. Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. in women's prisons, welcoming the Intifada. We're not doing it. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath, insist there be no debate about any of it. That if you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5, isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say it. Math is racist, queers for Palestine, looting is cool, healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie. You can't just say I mean, you can, but it doesn't make it true because you're not Harry Potter.
Separating sports by physics. That's why leagues existed that way long before Twitter discovered activism. And when it comes to kids, Maher's right. We don't let minors vote, drink, or get tattoos, but we're supposed to treat life-altering decisions as vibe-based. That's not compassion, that's negligence. Next, watch Bill Maher patiently ask a simple question, and then watch it get buried under 12 layers of But America Bad.
You had to live in the Middle East, so tomorrow, where would you live? What city would you live in?
Well,
where do you think you'd
sure-
be comfortable in that dress?
I'm sure it would not be comfortable in this dress in any of the various Middle Eastern countries that have been destabilized by.
You're not really blaming it on whitey.
Listen.
Are you? You're blaming Islam on whitey?
I'm not blaming Islam on whitey.
But what you're saying is we destabilized. That's why you can't wear that
Did we
dress?
not? Did we not destabilize?
Wait a second.
We were
Are you
funding organizations in Syria during the Syrian Civil War, starting under the Obama administration.
That's why
Did that not destabilize Syria?
No, what's destabilized?
There's a literal Al-Qaeda
about your
leader.
dress.
Oh,
Why?
It looks good. I know it looks good.
You're saying you can't wear that dress in Syria because of whitey destabilizing?
I didn't say that.
Okay, that's
You're
what
putting
it
words
said.
in my mouth.
Okay, great.
But
That's
the
what
United
it
States
sounded
did
like.
destabilize various
But
Middle
I
Eastern
asked about
countries.
the
Are you going
dress,
to deny that?
and I asked about the dress, and you went right to destabilize. So is that why you couldn't wear that dress? Why couldn't you wear that dress? Why couldn't you walk down?
You want me to talk about
Why-
jihadism and Islam, but like...
Why won't you?
Listen.
Why won't you? Why?
I don't believe in jihadism, which is why I'm furious that the United States just had a freaking
It's
in the
not
White
just
House.
jihadism that is preventing you from wearing that dress. Are you saying every Muslim is a jihad? I don't think they are.
Bill.
Okay, why can't you wear that dress?
Let's focus for a second.
No, you won't answer this question.
Watch how fast a concrete question turns into a sociology lecture. Maher is pointing out that blaming the West for everything avoids admitting uncomfortable truths. If a question about clothing requires 12 disclaimers and still no answer, maybe the problem isn't the question. Up next, Maher asks an uncomfortable question. If education is your brand, how did the product get this bad?
New York Magazine had an article that came out today. It's called The Big Fail. Here's the quote that they had on the cover. Student achievement has fallen off a cliff, and neither Trump nor the pandemic is to blame. Why do we need the Department of Education if it has done such a job? Kids don't come out of school. First of all, they can't read or do math anymore, and they don't know anything. I really do feel like the Democratic Party, this has been their portfolio for a long time, education. Right. Okay, so I feel like if they're going to get back in office, they have to own this issue a little. Because a lot of the states that are doing better now are like the southern states.
Really? Which one?
Mississippi.
Mississippi's getting better than Louisiana?
See, you're in a bubble.
I'm in a bubble.
You didn't get that story.
Well, I'm glad Mississippi's doing better, and I hope Alabama.
This clip is a masterclass in irony. Democrats have long owned education as their crown jewel, yet achievement plummets while Maher watches from reality. Mississippi and Alabama outperform expectations, proving that ideological ownership doesn't guarantee competence. Maybe the Department of Education should just hand out diplomas with a side of humility. And now Bill steps into the transgender athlete debate, making it very clear he doesn't care until sports enter the chat.
Gender athletes, I don't understand that, I understand it if, you want to switch around, I don't give a shit, but I'm a sports fan. That's a really new concept to me, that you can be a dude, right? Ranked 80th in the fucking world, you have your cut off, you put on a sports bra, and now you're the #1 tennis player in the world just coming out there.
situation Burr describes shows how complicated athletics can get when categories change. It's an example of how cultural shifts can create unexpected tension in arenas that were once straightforward. Right after that, Bill spots the triggered crowd, the hashtags loading, and male feminists desperately rewriting their resumes.
Look, I'm sure that there's some feminists in the crowd right now not appreciating this joke, feeling triggered, feeling like they need to put out a hashtag or some and be brave and speak out. You know what? You're full of People are so scared now. You have the male feminist. Like, where the did that come from? Just out of nowhere, last couple years. I'm a male feminist. I've always championed women. No, you haven't. You haven't. This came out and you're scared. You did something. You grabbed some. What the did you do? I'm a male feminist. I totally see the way you see the fucking world. It's impossible as a man who was raised right. To be a feminist. You can't do it. You're a man.
This is classic hypocrisy. White men claiming feminism after a lifetime of, well, the usual. Burr calls out the performative stuff, hashtags, speeches, and moral posturing replacing real effort. It's the kind of moral theater that makes people roll their eyes. This clip tackles elite universities, where diversity is celebrated as long as everyone thinks the same.
It's not like he didn't have a point about what colleges have become. Am I wrong about that? I read some study that said only 2% of people, the professors at Harvard, called themselves conservative. That's not, for people who are always talking about how great diversity is, there's not a lot of diversity of opinion. Isn't that a problem at elite universities? It's a little incestuous.
Maher hits the uncomfortable truth. Diversity quotas don't cover ideas. At elite schools, conservative voices are nearly invisible, and the debate bubble is tighter than a Zoom call in a closet. When everyone thinks the same, innovation dies, and apparently, so does a healthy sense of irony. And finally, Maher sums it all up. Pushing too far left doesn't make society better. It just sends the middle running in the opposite direction.
You can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right. At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. Sweden opened its borders to over 1.5 million immigrants since 2010, and now 20% of its citizens are foreign-born, and its education system is tanking, and it has Europe's highest rate of gangland killing. To which liberals say blaming immigrants for the rising crime rate is racist. Yeah, but is it true? Of course it's true. It's not a coincidence the quality of life went down after the Somali gang.
Maher's analogy is perfect. Politics needs brakes as much as acceleration. Go too far left, and the middle scurries right, leaving chaos behind. He's fine with momentum, but not off a cliff. A subtle reminder that even gas pedals need careful handling, or someone ends up in a ditch. And that's Bill Maher, folks, reminding us that reality still matters, even when Twitter thinks it doesn't. If you enjoyed watching Common Sense, get loud, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next reality check.